Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, but today we have a very special guest host. Her name is Shireen Richter, all the way from South Africa. Shireen is a laughter professor in South Africa, and she is putting together a book called Expert Mavericks, and she's interviewing some high-profile people from South Africa who have a lot to share in regards to what it is to be successful and what you need to do to have success and happiness in your life. So really looking forward to hearing those South African accents and hearing from all these guest experts that she is going to interview. So take it away, Shireen.
Albert by David. Hi.
How are you, Shireen?
So fabulous to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Honoured that you are one of our Mavericks, and you really are a true Maverick in every sense of the word.
Thank you. I'm truly privileged to be here.
Albert, the word Maverick means many things to many different people. What does the word or the term expert Maverick mean to you?
When I first thought of that, it was a bit of an oxymoron. I don't think you can be a professional rule breaker. But then the more I gave it thought, the more I believe that that's what it means. It just means that you live your life by your own rules and you forge ahead in spite of everyone else's expectations and in spite of society's norms.
And I think you've really done that. What has molded you into a Maverick? So many people feel they can't do things and get told you can't, or these things aren't possible. What has molded you? So
first, I don't believe that I am a Maverick. I've never thought of myself as a Maverick. I've always just had this tremendous self-belief, this knowledge that anything I put my mind to, I can do. And I don't accept limitations in anything, whether it's in the physical world, in the spiritual world, in the financial world. I think that if one applies themselves enough, you will achieve absolutely anything. And the best thing for me the best example I can give of that is in the physical world. For years I used to fight, and today I follow a bodybuilding routine, and people always talk about genetically gifted, and I know that I've never been genetically gifted, but I will work harder and more consistently and with more dedication, more self-discipline than anyone out there, and be able to achieve the same as anyone who's been born with genetically gifted talents.
So do you think success comes from actually having a plan, from looking forward, from setting goals, or do you run with the moment? Are you in the present time? What would be your recipe for someone who also wanted to be successful and do something out of the ordinary?
So I can't speak for anyone else. For myself, I'm not a planner. I have an idea, I have a vague idea in mind, and then I follow my gut. And I allow it to develop as it goes. I know the direction, I know where I want to be, I know what I want to achieve. It's not cast in stone. I've never sat down and written down notes. I've never planned for things in my life. But I know where I want to land up. And I will guide myself and my people through the process to get there. There's no forethought to it, but there's a very, very strong gut feeling. And every time I've ignored my gut, I've failed. And every time I followed my gut, it's been really successful and good for me.
So it's about listening, tuning back into you. That's been part of your success.
Very much so.
Is following your intuition.
Very much so. As I said, I have a tremendous self-belief. So I know what I'm capable of. And then I will always surround myself with people who are great where I'm weak.
How did you develop self-belief? That's a very, very powerful thing to develop, and many people struggle with that.
Believe it or not, it came about because I was an incredibly shy kid. So I moved to South Africa when I was 11 years old. I didn't speak any English. I only spoke French, and I was horribly teased. And it created a tremendous self-awareness, a negative self-awareness within me. So I worked hard at losing my French accent, at learning to speak English. And then and it didn't give me any self-confidence, even though I had got rid of the French and I was able to communicate with everyone in the same language. It didn't help my self-confidence. And throughout my junior school, even into my early high school career, I was incredibly shy. I couldn't talk to people. I was terrible at one-on-ones. And I realized what a shortcoming it was, how limiting it was. And there was no reason for it. If I would talk to someone, I could feel my whole body burning up, and people would say to me, "Why are you blushing?" My face would turn bright red. There was no reason for it other than, I suppose, it just made no sense to me. So I worked really hard at developing mechanisms to counteract that shyness, that self-awareness.
Can you tell us some of the things or techniques you used? Because there are so many people today who are very shy yet powerful internally. What would you tell them? What did you do?
What worked well for me was I put myself in scary situations. I'd force myself to go and talk to the prettiest girl in school. Or I'd force myself to go and talk to a teacher that I was terrified of. Or I'd force myself to approach strangers. If I was shopping with my mom at Pick n Pay, I'd force myself to approach strangers to just say hello. And I was only 16, 17 at the time. And I developed from there. And when I realized that no one thought badly of me for talking to them. No one ever bit my head off. No one killed me. I didn't die because of making myself get out there. I realized that, you know what, the more effort you put into it, the better the return will be, and there's nothing to fear.
Wow, what words of wisdom. So profound. You've had an interesting journey with many struggles, and what inspired me about your story was hearing that journey, and for so many going through a struggle themselves, I think they could learn from your story. Do you want to take us back to the beginning of where you started and tell us a little bit about that journey, about those struggles, and how you ended up as what I believe is a true maverick today?
Thank you. Sure, I have no problem with that. So, to give you an idea of the timing, I was 21 years old. My father had just been killed in a robbery, and I say that because that's the time that it happened. Everything that I'm going to tell you, I did, and I accept 100% responsibility for my actions and for every decision that I made. So please, the fact that my father died is not an excuse for the way I started to behave. I left Johannesburg, and I needed to start looking after my mother and my sister financially. My father was only 51 years old when he died. He hadn't planned to be dying at that time, and he in fact just leveraged himself financially to invest all his personal funds into his business to expand the business. There was no will, there was no life insurance, there was nothing left. So when he died, we were kind of left high and dry. I left Johannesburg to go and live in Cape Town, and I, at 21 years old, needed to start looking after my mother and my sister. And I had a job which was paying bills, but really not doing anything for us. And I came across a bunch of bad people, some debt collectors, and I started debt collecting with them. And this started giving us tremendous amount of money. The amount of money that I was making was ridiculous. But the debt collecting world is a very negative, very terrible world. And when I'm saying debt collecting, I'm not talking about going to court and going to lawyers. I'm talking about going and telling people that they had no choice but to give us the funds that they owed. Anyway, that was the beginning of a negative downward spiral, which caused me to lose my moral compass, which caused me to allow my animal soul to take over my body completely. And I got from debt collecting into telephone sex chat lines, into not extortion, protection, and started making great money, which was the original purpose of the whole thing, but doing very negative, morally objectionable, legally objectionable things. And I built a great little business, one that was sought after by other rubbish people. And so it caused me to be in a constant state of flux, of doing well financially, but always having to look over my shoulder and fearing for my life. Eventually,
Which from being a shy kid is
Yeah.
quite a turnaround.
Very much so. And eventually I was blessed to have a baby boy. He was 3 days old and he was in hospital. I was out at the clubs doing whatever I was doing, and a guy who I knew who had been trying to get this area of mine came running up to me and he headbutted me in the nose. Broke my nose, blood's pouring down my face, and time for me at that moment stopped. I remember reaching for my gun and I was going to pull my gun out and shoot him. Or he could have shot me, whatever, but there was going to be a very negative outcome. And that split second, time absolutely stopped for me. And today, I remember it as clearly as when it happened. In my mind's eye, I saw myself at a fork in the road. And the left-hand fork was that either I shot and killed him and landed up in jail, or he shot and killed me and I landed up dead. And there'd be no one to look after my little baby boy. The right-hand fork allowed me to live a life which I knew was possible, a life free of this negativity and rubbish. And so instead of pulling my gun out, I said to him, you know what, everything that I have is yours, you can have it all, and I'm out of this life.
Just in that instant.
Just in that instant. But you don't get out of that life so easily. It took a long time to divest of everything, and but whatever I had to do, I did. I stood up to all my responsibilities. Whatever I needed to sort out, I sorted out.
Did you have doubt along the way that you had made the right decision? Because it must have been very traumatic to get out of it.
Not moral doubt at the time. Doubt because all of a sudden I couldn't afford to pay my bills anymore. So I'd been making 80 to 100,000 Rand a week in cash. And now all of a sudden I was making no money whatsoever. I just met my wife-to-be, Shireen, and I had a little baby, and I couldn't afford, I blew through the money very quickly. So I started thinking, am I doing the right thing? It provided me with a livelihood, a living. My mother had moved on. She had been lucky enough to start dating a man who looked after her financially, and they looked after my sister. So I was free of that financial burden. The reason I got out of it was because I found myself doing morally reprehensible things, and I couldn't live with myself for that. But once I was out, those morally reprehensible things became memories, and you kind of sugarcoat your memories. I suppose it's the same as a lady who has pregnancy or birth pains. You have other babies because you forget how painful it is.
Yes.
I forgot how morally reprehensible I had been. But thank God I didn't get back into it. I put my mind to something and I decided I'm not going back. And I never went back. I have the ability to make a decision and just follow through with it. Like biting nails. I used to bite my nails. One day I stopped. I decided I'm stopping.
And that's a very strong character trait to have, because willpower and the ability to stick with that is very hard for most people in the world.
I believe so. I've never had a problem with it.
So tell us what happened then. You are now left with no business, no income, a tiny baby, and a new girlfriend.
And we started dating. She stuck with me in spite of numerous things. One of the stories that she enjoys telling is we were on our second or third date. We were driving through Sea Point, and 5 police vans surrounded us, lights flashing, sirens blaring. Out of each police van, 2 policemen jumped out with machine guns and surrounded us, and she was terrified. And one of the cops came and knocked on the window, and he greeted me by name, and he said, Albert, we have a problem. We need you to please come to the police station. So I said, it's no problem, but as you can see, I'm on a date. Would you mind if I just drop my date off at home and I'll come to the police station? And they said, sure, no problem, and off they go. She didn't say a word. She was white. She was pale, and I could see she was physically shaking. I get to her house, and I say, is it okay if I call you later? She looks at me with this look like, are you crazy? She looks at me and she says, call me later. You're going to waste your one phone call by calling me. Rather call your lawyer. You're going to be in jail. So I said, if I'm not in jail, is it okay if I call you? She smirked and said, okay, call me if you're not in jail.
Is that when you knew she was the one?
And she stuck by me. I was broke. I was a fugitive. I was a rubbish. And she just stuck by me. And 5 years later, we got married.
And do you think her sticking by you is what gave you the strength to get through that difficult challenge? Or was it part of your motivation and inspiration?
I think I knew that if a good person could like me, I couldn't be all bad. But I would have stuck through it anyway, with or without having someone like Shireen in my life.
Amazing. So, in all your journeys, who would you say has been your biggest role model or mentor that has helped you stay on the path, inspired you to do greater things?
So I think I can split my life into two parts. Before becoming religious and after becoming religious. And the truth is, I've never had a single role model. I admire and respect the hell out of people who achieve greatness in spite of the odds against them. I'm sure you've heard the story about, I don't know their names, I've never seen what they look like, but this is probably the go-to story for me every time I'm thinking something negative. There was a story of a son who approached his father one day and said, Dad, I'd like to run a marathon with you. And the father said, sure, no problem. He decided the time that he could spend with his kid. And they trained for about 3-4 months. And eventually they ran the first marathon. They came absolutely stone last. I don't even think they made the cutoff time. But, I'm going to get emotional, but at the finish line was every competitor waiting for them. Why? Because the kid was in a wheelchair and the father had pushed him the whole way. And they went on to run multiple marathons, and then they carried on and they did triathlons. So the father carries the kid out of the wheelchair into a special bicycle, out of the bicycle into a special little boat while he swims, etc. That's a kind of role model, if you can call it that. Excuse me. That's the kind of people I look up to. I have no idea who they are, but you can see it on YouTube, actually.
I've actually seen the story and heard about it and know exactly who you're talking about. And it's kind of that sheer determination and to do something out of love for someone that you really love.
Correct.
That creates power. I think that the message from your journey is love conquers all, and that's what I'm seeing is the good. Do you have mantras that you live by now? Mantras that people could take from you and try and emulate and live their lives by?
There's two that I really enjoy, and I truly live them. I think the one is a quote from Walt Disney. He says, it's kind of fun to do the impossible, and I think that's absolutely true. And the other one that I live by all the time is attitude determines altitude. You will always be where you want to be because you believe it. So on a negative side, those people who live their lives as eternal victims and always woe is me and feeling sorry for themselves, they'll never pull themselves out of that situation. On a positive side, a person who believes they can achieve anything will achieve anything. There's no reason for me to have achieved anything in my life other than the fact that I believe strongly that I can, and that God has blessed me to do so.
And even the most negative, the most positive people still have negative days, as I'm sure that's part of life and it's normal. Do you have negative days? And when you do,
I can't say that I do.
That's amazing.
I honestly can't say that I do. I live simple life. My life is that there are certain things which are within my control, and if they're in my control, great, I control them. And if I'm controlling them, I'm going to control them to the best of my ability. Those things that are out of my control, what a waste of effort and energy to worry about them.
So the message is surrendering. Surrendering to what you can't change and do the best that you can with what you can change.
Absolutely. Can I come back to the role model?
I'd love to get back to the role model.
Since becoming religious and since getting involved with Chabad and learning Hasidus, the person that I always turn to in my mind, what would this person do in this situation, is the Lubavitcher Rebbe. What the Lubavitcher Rebbe was able to do for Judaism in the world is unbelievable. He is a true maverick. He was Rebbe for 42 years, and that 42-year period was broken, unbeknown to anyone, you can only see it after his life, into 3 14-year periods. The first 14 years, he decided he was going to send Jewish emissaries into every corner of the world where there was even a Jew, where there was even one Jew. Today there are Jewish Chabad houses making Judaism possible for Jews in every single city around the world. It's an unbelievable thing. Now think back, this was in the 50s, late 40s, early 50s. It wasn't easy. You couldn't just jump on an airplane. And he started that program. He ran that program for 14 years before it became self-perpetuating, and it still runs today. The next 14 years, he pushed the programs of tefillin, of Shabbos candles, of mezuzahs. Up until that time, people didn't do that all the time. You know, even from communities weren't lighting Shabbos candles. Men weren't putting tefillin on. The mezuzahs were arbitrary at best, outside of Hasidim. And he had a lot of flack, but he just pushed these programs. And then the last 14 years was just about bringing Mashiach and acts of random kindness and just do good, be good, bring goodness into the world, and the world will bring goodness back to you.
And you do a lot of that. You do a lot of bringing good and giving back and random acts of kindness. And I think that especially in South Africa, in the country we live in, we need so many people like that to bring good and positivity and light. Tell us about some of the good that
so
you
I'd
do.
rather not. I'd rather talk to you about it in general terms.
Yes.
I think that God has blessed me with abundance so that I can do these things. And I think He continues to bless me with abundance because I do these things, because I'm able to help people. So it gives me great pleasure to help people, although that shouldn't be the reason to do so. So God blesses me with the ability to do so, and because I do it, I think He continues to bless me.
And I think the responsibility is, if you have the ability, you have to be your best in order to help. You can't help anyone if you aren't your best.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's a very powerful message, and what you emulate, you live your life by, is being the best version now of you, so that you can help others.
Very much so.
In a world full of fear and negativity, as we are now, and in South Africa there's a lot of negative sentiment around, it's important for people to think out of the box and do things a little differently. What is your message to people who are reading the story in terms of the fear that is abounding and what they should do to re-inspire themselves in South Africa?
That's a beautiful question. I would say that fear of the things that are out of your control is just a wasted emotion. It's a waste of energy. Know that there's a plan in the world for ultimate goodness. Know that the plan may not be revealed, we may not understand it, but that whatever's happening is all part of the plan that has been set down from the time of creation. And that if you do your bit, and you bring goodness and light into the world in whatever way possible, and every single individual has the ability to bring goodness in the world. It doesn't have to be monetary. If every single person focuses on that, then the rest of the world will follow. To worry about things that are out of our control, whether it's an economic downturn or it's an election that's going on, whatever's not within our control is a waste of energy. And the world works in cycles, and I don't think we're going through the worst cycle that the world has ever seen. We're going through a bad cycle, and it'll come around again, and we'll go through good times again very soon, please God.
So where to next for Alpe?
I just love life, and I want to continue to be blessed with the ability to live my life and enjoy my life, carry on watching my children grow. I have no particular plan in place. I don't intend to conquer the world, but I want to be able to just keep on bringing goodness around me and surrounding myself with goodness and good people.
So we spoke about what you did before you had this inner voice that said change. What is it that you do now?
So today I have my main business is a digital print business. Along the way, I started at a very young age investing in property. As a result of my father's death and him having no life insurance policies or anything like that for us, I realized that one has to plan for every eventuality. Excuse me. So I started investing in property at a very young age, and today I've got a very nice and healthy property portfolio, because I don't understand stocks and bonds, and it comes back to this whole control thing if it's not in my control. So I don't control stock markets, I don't control things that I don't own. Property I can work with. So my wife actually administers all the properties and manages all the properties. And then I've got all little sideline things happening. I love getting involved with people that come to me with ideas that they want. And I don't ever get involved financially, but I enjoy watching people grow and mentoring people and tutoring people and putting them in touch with the right people to help germinate their little ideas into fully fledged workable enterprises. My goal is to watch my children grow, get married, have their own children, and to, please God, be around for when Mashiach arrives.
That is a beautiful message and really very powerful, because mentorship and helping others is often more important than actually funding a person or giving a person money. There's so many people that want to be mavericks and think out of the box, but don't have the knowledge and the experience to do it. So I think that's an incredibly powerful tool. In doing that, what fuels your passion? What are you passionate about in life, and what keeps refueling that passion? Are there some things you can share?
I think I'm just passionate about life in general. I think every morning that I wake up and firstly I've been blessed with another day, I'm so happy about, and I look around me and I see the beauty of the world, and I see just what is possible. I think that to me is magnificent when you see people achieving things that they shouldn't achieve. There's that guy who goes around giving talks. He was born with no limbs. He's got no arms, no legs. You'll never see that guy unhappy. And then you come across a person who's got every faculty with them, and they're having a bad day, and you go, what's wrong? Oh, the world is coming to an end. That drives me mad. So actually what fuels me is ensuring that the negative people try and look for the positive in life.
And what messages would you give to them? So if you sat across a table and were mentoring a person who wanted to start a business, wanted to do something differently, who was in a negative place, are there tools, are there tips, are there tricks, are there things that you could give them to take into their lives to shift that? Because it's easy to say be happy. How? Is there anything tangible you could
I don't think I have the knowledge or the wherewithal to understand how to impart that. I would certainly be nasty because it irritates me and say just grow up and go away and count your blessings instead of focusing on the negative. Just focus on the positive. You know, a lot of people, when they're trying to make a decision, they do a pro and con. They do listing their pros and cons. So instead of listing your cons, list your pros and then list what's even better about those pros. So never write down the negatives. Never think about the negatives. What's the worst that can happen in life?
So for someone who wanted to become a maverick and turn their lives around and do something different, besides cultivating a positive attitude, what would you say are the greatest risks, firstly, and then rewards that come from thinking out of the box and doing something different?
So from a risk point of view, if you're prepared to never give up, there are no risks. Because losing a business or going broke or not getting the girl of your dreams, whatever, is a temporary setback so long as you don't give up at that point. It's part of your learning experience. Okay, I know what I did wrong there. I know what not to do next time. Let's go forward and redo it without. The minute you stop and you say, oh, you know what, this business closed down, I'm not cut out to do this, that's failure. So there's no downside. All you can do is learn, spend some time, and improve. So there's no downside. The rewards are brilliant. I don't think you can learn to be a maverick, though. I think you have to either be born or not born. I gave a guest lecture at an MBA course recently, and I think there were 32 odd people in the course. And I started out, I said, all right, all those of you that were called ADD kids, please move over to the side. So they all look at themselves, at each other, and I think, how discriminatory is this guy? And they all move to the side. Then I go, all of you that were at school called disruptive and naughty and the teachers couldn't deal with you, all of you go and join the ADD kids. Cool, they all. I said, all right, the rest of you, you were probably great students at school and you did all your homework and you learned everything. And they said, yeah, they were so proud. They thought I was going to. I said, right, you guys I don't want to talk to because you guys are just going to become accountants and boring people. You guys I want to talk to because you guys are going to become the entrepreneurs of the future. So I think you've got to be born with it. You can't be a rule follower one day and decide you're going to break the rules the next day.
You don't think you can cultivate that?
I don't think so. I think if you follow the rules from the beginning, you're going to follow the rules all the time. If you break rules from the beginning, and I'm not saying break rules, I'm saying like create your own rules. If you make your own rules, you'll always make your own rules. I don't know that you can cultivate it.
I think that's how so many things have been created in the world, is people have thought, how do we do this differently?
Absolutely, or better.
Do you think that the school system today enhances that process or inhibits it?
Inhibits it. As soon as a teacher can't deal with a kid, they dope them up, and they should be encouraging those kids. The kids who they can't deal with are the ones who are going to be. And I'm not saying this flippantly. I'm saying this. I've watched every kid who was in my year, the head boys and the head girls, lovely people, but they're boring people today. They're rule followers, and all those that were straight A students, they're whatever they are today. The people who were in my peer group have all done phenomenally well with their lives. Phenomenally well. I'm not talking financially, I'm talking they've got successful marriages, they're successful parents, they have successful businesses, they've done really well with themselves. As a rule, not every single one.
Yes.
There's the exception to every rule, of course.
So do you think that the struggles that you went through molded you into being who you are and your success? Would you have them again?
Yes.
Would you change anything? Would you do anything differently?
No, and it's hard to say that because I was so morally bad. But if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have the knowledge I have today. I wouldn't be the parent I am today, the husband I am today. So I, even losing my father at a young age, as much as I don't think I'd want that to happen again, but there's a silver lining to that. Had he not died when he did, I would have more than likely gone into his business and never really understood and appreciated the value of money, understood how difficult it is to make it. My life would have been a cruise. I would have been a brat. I would have been a spoiled little Jewish brat who today I can't stand. But that's what would have happened to me. So even there I had to find the blessing, and the blessing is that I became the person who I am.
You are a man with so much heart and so much depth and so many levels and layers uncovering. It's just magnificent to see.
Thank you.
What do you stand by and what do you hold in your heart? So to end, who's out there? What message do you want to leave the world? What do you want people to take from your journey?
I think if I can impart two things. One is that we as human beings have a tremendous gift from God, and that gift is free choice. And if you've been given the gift of free choice and you have the ability to make your own decisions, then choose to do good and choose to be happy. Choose the positive stuff in life. When I say be good, you don't have to actively be good 24/7, but always choose the right side of the morality fence. And when you see or know of something that is wrong, stand up for it. Stand up against it. Don't allow things that go against your moral compass or against the integrity scale that you have within you to go by without reacting to them. Now, I have an overdeveloped sense of right and wrong, and it gets me into trouble often. For me, it's very black and white. It often gets me into trouble. Don't push it to my degree, but don't allow bad things to happen. I'd say that's the one thing. The other thing is just love and live your life. Live your life. Today, I'm again in a very blessed situation. God has put me in this situation, but I wake up in the morning, I go to shul for an hour. From shul, I then go to gym. From gym, I then go home, I shower, I eat. I'm only in the office at 10 o'clock, but my work-life balance is fantastic. I'm always home to put my children to sleep. I always get to eat with my family every evening. So I never put work or making money in front of my life. My life comes first. I think that's vital. I think too many of us are chasing after something impossible, and I've never heard anyone lying on their deathbed going, gee, I wish I'd spend more time in the office.
Absolutely. And I think family and the people that we have are really the most important integral part to our fulfillment and happiness in life.
Very much so.
That's a very powerful message for people to take in the world. Even, do you not find that with social media, with Facebook, with instant access, that puts additional pressure on having your own space and your own time?
Yeah. Everyone on social media lives such perfect lives.
Don't they just?
Take that into the real world. We have, as a family, we have rules about when one can and can't bring their phone. You can't bring your phone to the table. Shabbos, obviously, there's no outside communication for the whole duration of Shabbos. So even there, we've been lucky enough and blessed enough to have a fantastic balance. And I think that social media, used correctly, can be a phenomenal tool, can be an unbelievable tool. And I'm sure if the Rebbe were alive today, he'd be on social media. He'd have a whole social media campaign to just push goodness and kindness and yeah.
Thank you so much for this beautiful interview.
So much.
Any final parting message, quote, or statement?
As I said earlier, love your lives and live your lives to the fullest.
Thank you, Albert.
Absolute pleasure.
An honor and a privilege.
Thank you. For me too. Thank you.
And there you have it. What an excellent interview. Thank you to our guest interviewer, Shireen Richter. She's interviewing people for her book, Expert Mavericks, which is going to be released later this year. We're looking forward to more interviews from Shireen, but until then, like and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.